Gene Deal predicted years ago that Sean Diddy Combs would pay for his crimes, and now, almost 2 years after the raids on his mansion, everything that Gene Deal said has come true. Now Gene Deal is finally breaking his silence on what he thinks about Diddy's sentence and what is going to happen to Diddy behind bars. This isn't the end of Diddy's story, and believe it or not, Diddy is still trying to get out. A formal petition for his release has been presented to President Trump, and history is just beginning.
It is exactly what I said on my show. I said Diddy gonna end up doing 24 months in prison. The judge gave him 50 months, but you gotta realize he already had 14 months in it, practically, and he's going to get credit for 2 months of that 14 months. That give him 16 months. He's gonna do 24 months, which is gonna give him about 30 months because he only had to do 85% in the feds, and he goes to probably a halfway house. So he got off like a fat rat in a cheese factory. But for a dude like Diddy going to jail and spending all that time, you know, I'm not saying it's going to be rough or nothing like that, because his former president of Bad Boy, Kirk Burrows, with the federal jail. You understand? Lil' Kim with the federal jail. So, you know, because the type of dude he is, you know, he'll make it, he'll be all right. And plus they're gonna send him to a camp, bruh. He'll be in somebody camp or somebody dormitory, whereas that it'll be real light for him. So, you know, he'll see the streets back again in 24 months.
Diddy's 50-month sentence might sound like a lot, but keep in mind that he only has to serve out like 2 years. 2 years in exchange for everything he did is nothing. And according to Gene Deal, Diddy is lucky. The prosecutors wanted 11 years, but the judge only sentenced him to 50 months, way below the federal guidelines. Diddy didn't get charged for the guns found at his house, he didn't get charged for the drugs, and he didn't even get any assault charges, even though he was caught on tape and confessed to it. Why is that?
The judge spoke about his coercion, his relevant conduct. The judge spoke about, you know, mitigating circumstances, you know what I'm saying? A lot of the judge spoke about. You know, look at here. He got caught with drugs. Never got charged with the drugs. And the judge knew that. That's why the judge said relevant conduct. You understand? He got caught with guns. Guns in the house with the serial number. The judge knew that. You understand? Relevant conduct. You understand? That he didn't get charged with. The beating of Jane, hitting in the head, the assault and all that stuff of Cassie. All those things, they probably couldn't. I don't guess they could have charged him with them, but it came up in the trial. All that's relevant conduct. You understand? And people don't understand all the things that he was doing. Then the judge made a point. When you go and talk to the managers and you talk to people about hiding evidence, you understand? Remember the fact in the trial when it came up that he gave a guy $100,000 and some thousand dollars or $100,000 to keep the tape that from cashing them? That's relevant conduct. Your judge was speaking about all that.
Diddy doesn't deserve any sympathy. Gene says Diddy was coming after his life for the things he was saying. How can Gene have sympathy for a man that tried to kill him? Diddy didn't have any sympathy for his victims. He has no remorse. His only regret is that he got caught.
I fought to keep guys out of jail for 27 years. But do I care about him going to jail? Nah, I don't, bro. I'm sorry. God just gonna have to take that off my heart. But that's my enemy. He made it clear. He made it clear when he was sending niggas at me, when he was doing when he was setting dudes up, when he was when he cursed Wolf mother out, when he set Wolf up to go at BMF. That nigga became my enemy, bro, as well as I became his. So why should I care? He did a whole lot of shit to a whole lot of people, and now he's paying for it. So all these cats, I guess y'all get y'all visitation rights. Some of y'all can get y'all conjugal visits right with them. I don't give a shit. That's how I feel about it, bro.
Now, what's the real reason that Diddy was able to get such a short sentence? Everyone on the streets knows that Diddy was cooperating with the feds. Gene and Suge have said this multiple times. Diddy fed them information, and in return, he got immunity for most of his crimes. Diddy didn't even get charged for most of the crimes. On the day of his arrest, drugs and guns were confiscated from his hotel room. Neither of these things ended up on his charge sheet.
So that's always a great day for the family. Overall, though, it's not surprising. You know, we do all know one thing. Like I said before, Puffy has strong ties with the government, with the feds. And anybody else would have been cooked, done. I mean, that's the first time in history that a person going to get sentenced and they can actually put on a campaign like they running for the president of the United States, where they can show videos and pretty much everything. Only thing I was waiting on was the fact that I was waiting on him to bring out the DJ and start playing music and let him do what he do best, dance and shake that ass and end up with no time. And the other side of it is that, well, the sad side of it is that I couldn't believe that not one of his baby mothers came in to support him or testify. And I was surprised by that because that shows a lot about the character. I still think it's fair that Puffy got less time because the other people who's involved in this case, other executives, other people, they didn't get punished at all. They walked away untouched. So in society, it's a fair side and it's a bullshit side.
Diddy sent a letter to the judge telling him that he deeply regretted his actions and how he was sorry for all the hurt and pain that he has caused. At the same time, he was constantly threatening everyone that spoke out against him. Everyone that dared to testify against him was receiving threats.
Combs apologized for his actions in a letter to the judge overseeing that case.
The letter is 4 pages. In it, he says, quote, "I take full responsibility and accountability for my past wrongs." And the former star maker apologizes to all the people he has hurt and begged for mercy at his sentencing. Combs directly apologized to Cassie Ventura and the woman who testified under the pseudonym Jane at trial for hurting them. "I literally lost my mind. I was dead wrong for putting my hands on the woman that I loved. I'm sorry for that and always will be. My domestic violence will always be a heavy burden I have to carry forever," he said of Cassie. Diddy, of course, was accustomed to living large, in lavish homes and flying on private jets. Further into the letter, he describes what he says his prison conditions are like. Quote, "For over a year, I've been locked in one room with 25 other incarcerated people, sharing the same one room. I'm not expecting pity or sympathy, but my time at MDC has changed me forever."
Right before Diddy's sentencing, Cassie even wrote a letter to the judge saying that she has already moved all of her family out of New York just in case Diddy manages to get out. That's how scared Cassie is.
Cassie Ventura was the star prosecution witness at Sean Combs' trial and wrote this to the judge, and I quote, "For 4 days in May, while 9 months pregnant with my son, I testified in front of a packed courtroom about the most traumatic and horrifying chapter in my life. I testified that from the age of 19, Sean Combs used violence, threats, substances, and control over my career to trap me in over a decade of abuse. He groomed me into performing repeated sex acts with hired male sex workers during multi-day freak-offs, which occurred nearly weekly. I was forced into lingerie and heels and told exactly how to look and plied with drugs and alcohol so he could control me like a puppet. These events were degrading and disgusting, leaving me with infections, illnesses, and days of physical and emotional exhaustion before he demanded it all over again. Acts became my full-time job, used as the only way to stay in his graces, his good graces. Cassie Ventura says that she has spent the past 7 years rebuilding her life, engaging in, quote, dozens of types of therapy, but still says she has, quote, nightmares and flashbacks on a regular basis. She says that she moved her entire family out of New York for fear that Sean Combs may have some retribution in mind. She told the judge that she hopes he pays for what he did, whether the jury believed her or not.
Gene Deal said exactly the same. Diddy is an abuser and he doesn't deserve any sympathy. Diddy and his lawyers will say whatever it takes to get him out and are trying even now to get Diddy a pardon from President Trump.
And it says, fuck him and feed him beans. I can care less about his sadness. I can care less about him being in pain. I can care less about what he has to be faced with in court or in jail now. I don't have no remorseful feelings for him, bro. You understand? This is somebody that at one time I would have given my own life for. And to know this nigga was trying to get people to take my life because I was trying to teach him to be right by people and tell him to be right by people. I have no remorse for this dude, bro. To see him like that, I know there is a God. And you can feel all the way you want to feel about me. You can say whatever you want to say about me. But karma is a mother.
Diddy's life behind bars is going to be horrifying. And there are already rumors that Diddy might try to harm himself. Even during his stay at the MDC, Diddy was depressed, and Gene predicted that Diddy might do something or pull an Epstein. The first few months are going to be the hardest for Diddy, and it's not just because of the lack of adjustment. Diddy's life is genuinely in danger.
Everybody's suicidal when they first go to prison. Everybody's suicidal. If you've never been to prison before, you've never been behind bars, everybody is suicidal. Then you get used to it. It becomes your livelihood. You learn how to stay alive. You got a crust of bread in the corner to sleep in. Everything else is a blessing.
But you knowing Diddy personally, do you think it's possible he might take his life?
It takes a certain individual to prepare himself to do a lot of years in jail. From the lifestyle that he had, I'm not saying that he can't. I just don't see him able to do time behind bars. Maybe if he be in a camp type situation, that's a possibility. But based on the lifestyle and what he's done and what he's accomplished, if he had to go behind those bars for a lot of years, I think that he may commit suicide. He'd do an Epstein.
Why do you think he didn't pull a Russell Simmons and leave the country?
They was watching him, bro. They was watching him. And then I think that he had to turn over his passport. Even if you own your own private jet, they have a system up there whereas that they supposed to check your passport and anything that you need to fly as if you were flying commercial.
During his sentencing, Diddy's lawyers revealed that Diddy had been attacked during his stay at the MDC. One of the inmates allegedly attacked Diddy, and a guard had to step in. There is a good chance that this inmate was paid by someone to target and silence Diddy, and this may be what Diddy is afraid of. He knows what might happen to him if he returns.
The lawyers, when they were speaking on Diddy being in prison, and the circumstances him being in prison, I didn't never hear about this, and nobody ever said anything about this. And I want to know if it's in the prison records. They said one of the guards stopped a dude from shanking Diddy. Now, I'm like, if he was doing all this positive shit in jail, and they was talking about he was, all the inmates loved him, and they was employing him and doing standing ovation. I wonder what inmate was trying to shank him. Was that one of the Tupac? Was that one of the Tupac fans, or that was one of Biggie fans? Because they said that the guard, they said that in court. One of the lawyers, one of the guards stopped one of the individuals that was trying to shank him, bro. And that was crazy. Nobody, I never, that didn't leak. Everything leaks from prison, but that didn't leak. Nobody wrote home and said, yo, dudes is in here trying to stab Diddy up. But the lawyers mentioned that today. I want to see if they're going to investigate that right there. You know what I'm saying? And base that, or he probably used that, base that on trying to help Diddy getting into one of those camps or one of those programs that, you know, he ain't got to worry about nothing.
Yeah.
Is he safe though? And you say something about him getting stabbed?
I was going to say, Diddy's team is saying no, he's not going to be safe, because in court we found out that there was an attempt on Diddy's life, that there was a man that attempted to shank him, but they stopped it, the correctional officers. And they say Diddy didn't even want people to know that he didn't want to make it a big deal. But of course they're having that conversation about will he be safe because of who he is and how high profile this case is.
Right.
They're also having a conversation. Mark Geragos is a high profile attorney, a friend of Diddy's, but also the dad of Teeny Geragos, who led Diddy's defense about Diddy potentially being raped in court. And we can and just attacks on his life, because they say that people look at him as like a trophy or a prize, and to do something to him.
Well, what if other inmates hear all of the stuff that we've been hearing in the news all of these weeks, and they scared of Diddy?
That's not how they presented it. I don't.
That's crazy to say Diddy's a trophy. Like, he's looked at as a trophy in jail is crazy.
Diddy was 100% sure he was going to get out. He even booked speaking engagements for next week. He thought that he was going to get out on probation the same day as his hearing. Even the judge couldn't believe Diddy was so sure of his release. Allegedly, this made Diddy's sentence worse. Even jurors were shocked to hear that.
And what's crazy is this, he got to worry about something now. You understand? Because he thought he didn't have to worry about nothing, because he thought he was going to a speaking engagement. They was that bold enough to be setting up speaking engagements as if he was going to get out of jail. They were saying that he was going to get out of jail. He had speaking engagements set up for Miami. The judge heard that, and I guess the judge was like, whoa, hold up. And then they brought in a guy from Reentry who was an ex-prisoner who now he does reentry in Miami. I'm familiar with the reentry programs because we used to use them for the state too. Now, this guy spoke and said that it was more so not like a speaking engagement. It was more like a healing session. Hold up, you forgot the funny Yo. They said this dude, one of the lawyers said that Diddy was a civil rights activist now. Can you believe that shit? He said he was a civil rights activist. I was like, they are going for they dropping all the jewels now. They trying to get this mofo out. They don't care what they gotta say, what lies they gotta tell.
What we discovered today during sentencing, the prosecutors told the judge that Sean Combs had booked speaking engagements for Miami next week, and the prosecutor said that was the ultimate in hubris. What were your thoughts about that?
No, I would say so too. I mean, I'm not entirely sure how he would even do that, because even if it was the 14 months, still that would be, I think, towards the end of the the years, so I'm not sure what he was really thinking on that. But yeah, it does show the arrogance that he thought that he would just get off on this. But I know that, but it didn't happen that way.
Yeah, arrogance is definitely another word for it. I'm also sort of thinking the stupidity, it just seemed crazy to be doing something like that, especially since it got into the hands of the prosecutors and they were allowed to use it.
Diddy's attorneys have confirmed that they plan to appeal the sentence and they think it's unfair. Like, come on. Diddy got 2 years after terrorizing women and making death threats for over 2 decades. What was he expecting? Just because you said sorry at the sentencing doesn't mean everything you did gets forgiven.
He let everybody on Diddy's team speak. Each one of the lawyers. Not only one lawyer spoke about the victims. Only one lawyer spoke about the victims. And I think that was a setup because Diddy spoke about the victims. And that was Cassie and Jane. He apologized to them for bringing Jane into his life and the whole 9 yards and bringing her to his mess. But none of the lawyers spoke about the victim. One lawyer, the lady, she was crying on the stand. Did you know she was crying on the stand?
Nah, I ain't hear about that.
The female lawyer was crying on the stand, man. That shit is crazy, man. But the judge said he's a puppet. The judge said, no, the prosecutor said he's a master puppeteer. He's a master puppeteer, she said.
Out of New York City, we are hearing Diddy's attorneys speaking to the media after he was sentenced earlier today. This is live.
Yeah, we are
absolutely. Filed a cross appeal. What would happen in that regard if they filed a cross appeal and then Sean Diddy Combs get a higher sentence?
He would not get a higher sentence, and they're not gonna cross appeal. We're gonna appeal. We think we're right, and they'll respond to the appeal, and it'll be decided by the Second Circuit as soon as.
Tell us about the conversation you had with your client after the sentencing. Consensual. The judge clearly thought the sexual encounters weren't consensual.
Because he's biased.
What did you make of his remarks?
He's biased. If anyone, I'm happy to go.
The judge was open-minded. At least the judge was open-minded for both sides.
In case the appeal process doesn't work out, which, as you can probably guess, isn't going to happen, Diddy is planning to reduce his sentence by going to a special drug program. Diddy's lawyers have also suggested a low-security prison for Diddy. This prison has a special drug rehab program, and if everything goes according to Diddy's plan, it's more than likely that Diddy will only spend around a year in prison. This is what Diddy is hoping for.
Diddy wants to go to this prison for multiple reasons, but the main reason that they list this prison is because Diddy wants to try to get into RDAP. That is a prison program where you can actually get up to a year off your sentence if you struggled with substance abuse issues. And honestly, this is one of the best programs where you can get a substantial amount of time off of your sentence if you complete the program. But there's also some things that Diddy would have to meet to even get into this program, which I don't think is going to happen. We already know that Diddy is going to shoot his shot as hard as he can to try to get into this program, because already with what Diddy was sentenced and his time served added to that, he's only looking at about 2.5 years in total. If he was able to make it to this program, he could get up to another year off, meaning he'd only sit 1.5 years in prison. The main qualifier for you to be able to get into this program is show that you had a substance abuse issue before these charges came about and even during these charges, which we know Diddy can in fact meet, but there is also other things that go into why he could be disqualified for this program. The Bureau of Prisons is who is going to handle deciding if Diddy is actually eligible for this program. One of the biggest disqualifiers for this program is violence. Bureau of Prisons will review the nature of current and past convictions. A felony that involved actual, attempted, or threatened use of physical force is a major disqualifier for early release, regardless of the judge's recommendations for this program.
I only have a little bit of time left. I got to switch gears real quick to Diddy. So he is asked to be sent to a low security prison out in New Jersey for where he will serve his, prison term. 4 years, served already 1, so 3, maybe out in 2.5. Do you think he's going to get that request? Do you think he's going to serve it at this low security prison in New Jersey?
It seems like the logical place for him to go. I mean, you've got, based on all of the factors and everything else that goes into the Bureau of Prisons, when they get the file, so to speak, they get the PSR, which is the pre-sentence report. They have a certain criteria, and a lot of that criteria has to do with geographic location and then the severity of the sentence and the charges. All of that would tend to lean towards the placement at this New Jersey facility. So I would say on a bell curve, 80% shot.
And chances he has a successful appeal, either a new trial or the sentence being adjusted?
I've had this argument with his team and people not on the team, and I don't want to reveal the work product, but I will tell you my reaction to this sentence was that because the judge accepted the sentencing guidelines and then went under it, and he accepted the sentencing guidelines that probation said, which was 70 to 87, I think, but went underneath at 50, it makes the appeal on the sentence tougher. I still think there's a whale of an argument on the Mann Act itself as applied, that the idea of having a prostitute cross state lines in order to film them and not have, I don't think by any stretch of the imagination that's what the code section was designed to prevent.
The only other person other than Gene Deal that was directly threatened by Diddy is Cassie. And she said that knowing Diddy can't come after her is the only thing that helps her sleep at night. Diddy is violent and he has no regrets. He deserves everything that's coming for him.
Cassie Ventura is moving forward. After Sean Diddy Combs was sentenced to 50 months in prison for 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution on October 3rd, his ex reacts to U.S. District Judge Aaron Subramanian's decision in a statement from her lawyers. The attorneys tell E! News, while nothing can undo the trauma caused by Combs, the sentence imposed today recognizes the impact of the serious offenses he committed. They add, "We are confident that with the support of her family and friends, Ms. Ventura will continue healing, knowing that her bravery and fortitude have been an inspiration to so many." Ventura was in a relationship with Combs on and off from 2007 to 2018. In addition to his over 4 years in prison, Combs was handed 5 years of supervised release and a fine of $500,000. Ahead of his sentencing, Combs, who was acquitted on trafficking and racketeering charges during his federal trial, expressed remorse for, quote, all of the hurt and pain he caused others through his conduct in a letter to the judge. He wrote in the filing, obtained by NBC News October 2nd, "I lost my way. I got lost in my journey, lost in the drugs and the excess."
From the feds to his former friends, no one is standing by Diddy anymore. And with more lawsuits, sealed testimonies, and federal investigations still pending, this might only be chapter 1 of Diddy's reckoning. Who do you think is next after Diddy? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you don't miss the next drop.